for me with Rice, and then I'll turn it over to you guys. I really hope he just really does learn. I feel like we've heard it the past couple off seasons. Hey, this was a learning lesson, and I'm going to use it to, better myself. And that's ultimately the hope for me. Whether or not he has a long future with the Chiefs, they extend him after this year, he goes elsewhere. You've got a lot of life left. You're a dad. You got 2 kids.
Yeah.
So my hope is what he said at the end of his presser. Like, I have a huge responsibility being a dad, and that's a big priority in my life. And a part of learning and growing from that is being the best father you can be off the field, and then the best player and teammate you can be on the field while staying out of trouble. So, state of the wide receiver room, what say you guys?
For Rashee Rice specifically, we could ask as many questions as we want. I thought we tried to talk about the rehab of it all within the midst of the 30-day jail sentence that he had between mid-May and mid-June. He's clearly looked not necessarily rusty, but he clearly looks, I think you said it correctly last week, Mitch. He clearly looks a little hesitant about like fully opening up. I think change of direction has been somewhat difficult for him based on what we've seen in practice, but there's been times where he looks like himself. And so you're trying to glean as much as you can. I asked him directly what he wanted to improve most for this season, and he said it was something that had nothing to do with him with the ball in his hands, which I actually thought was very interesting because there were times last year where if the play call wasn't specifically designed for him, he did not give maximum effort. So clearly that's been a teaching point brought to him.
He said that twice. Something to that effect twice in that presser.
Because it was evident based on when you watched film that he wasn't as productive as he needed to be, or he wasn't necessarily aware that, like, hey, just because the play is not there for you, Pat might still throw you the ball based on whatever the circumstances are. Like, please be ready to, like, you're on the field for a reason. You're a really good player. Like, demonstrate that. It's nice to see that Cyrus Allen is pretty good in pads. We needed to see that in pads, but he looks pretty good still. So he'll be someone you should circle for Saturday's game as well. I think the best receiver so far, kind of by default, and we don't talk about him a ton, is Tyquan Thornton, because he has somehow become Mr. Reliable all of a sudden. He's been at every practice. He's done really well to be a deep threat and a connection with Mahomes. There's been a couple times, and I'm sure you were there yesterday, Mitch, where he threw the ball in the middle between 2 defenders that was just absolutely perfection in a lot of ways. And hopefully by next week, Xavier Worthy comes back. My hope, I think Chiefs fans' hope, should be you get through Saturday's game. Hopefully that goes well. You can get more reps from Ashton Gelati. Trey Smith can come back into the fold, and you can get a little bit more in the pads in terms of workload for Xavier Worthy, because those guys, at least from Andy Reid's perspective, he would like those guys to play in one of the last 2 preseason games to get them ready for, obviously, opening night. So there's, I think, better optimism than we've demonstrated before with the receivers. But at the same time, it's like, I just want Rashee Rice to, like, if there was ever a time to just bring it all together, this is kind of it. And so he said, I commend him for saying everything he said today, for being as honest as he wanted to be. I imagine that if you were in jail for 30 days, it would be a reality check. So thank you for acknowledging that. And then, let's see how well he does in an offense that still needs him to be pretty productive.
Yeah, and I mean, I think way more optimism to your point than last week. I was a little more neutral the first week and very pessimistic last week, but things are looking better. They're mostly out there. They're mostly practicing. I do think we'll see what Cyrus can do. Obviously, Coach Reid's history in Kansas City, rookies do not play a very large role, especially early in the season. Tyreek more second half of the year, Rashee a little bit more second half of the year. Xavier, more of a little bit gadget guy the first year. So what can he tolerate? What can he handle? What position is he going to play early in the season? The risk is, I don't know if you can say Rashee's injury prone, but coming into a year where he's not, fully healthy, starting training camp, you worry about flare-ups, you worry about, little things coming. Obviously, Xavier, I think we can say at this point, is not the most, injury-free, and smaller things can add up because of his frame.
Yep.
And so it's great to have them out there. It's great to kind of see what it's starting to look like. I mean, guys are getting open and he's finding places to throw the ball. And it seems like a lot of trust in Thornton, as we said, obviously a ton of trust in Kelsey. Seems like he kind of trusts Cyrus. Xavier, I feel like they haven't really had that connection on the field that we like to see. So can they kind of work through that? But is the receiver room like so role specific that if guys do get injured, it kind of throws everything off? Because essentially this becomes like a Cyrus Allen question. Like, what can he handle? Which roles can he play? Because again, Rashee, more or less slot guy, zone beater, not going to be the man coverage guy. Xavier, burner, gadget guy, can still run routes, maybe a little bit of a man coverage beater. You put him in some stack releases, get him in motion, and he can defeat man coverage. Travis, whatever role he plays, that's his role. Taekwon is a little bit more of kind of the deep threat, showing his ability to be a full receiver, but obviously great chemistry with Pat on throws down the field, throws over the middle, a little bit, more middle to intermediate to deep. So if guys start getting hurt, like, are the backups going to be able to fill in at any spot, or is everyone just like, this is my role, this is my spot, this is my role, this is my spot?
Right.
And that's where most teams, to be fair, don't have those answers, like a ton of them. But I do feel like the Chiefs are very hyper specific that like Rashee is this kind of receiver, X is this kind of receiver, Thornton is this kind. And so if Cyrus is able to show versatility that he can do some X stuff, some Z stuff, some slot stuff, then he can be third or fourth receiver in general. But if a guy goes down, he can jump in and play a little bit of the Rashee role in zone coverage. He could jump in and be the man beater if X goes down. So I think that's what will be fun to see, kind of what the production looks like on the field, because he is doing it in pads. He looks great. He, is kind of quelling all the, it's only, OTAs, it's only against backups. Like, I think those things are kind of out the window. Like, he's pretty legit receiver. How good he can be from the get-go, don't know, but way ahead of a typical fifth round guy and looking more like, second round, first round type receiver. So yeah, pretty optimistic this week.
The issue, to your point, Mitch, and I don't know if you've unlocked something in me, but it's like, because they are, I think in a lot of ways, so role specific, I'm like, well, there's not 17 games where they're all going to be out there. So like
Kenneth Walker,
history suggests you're not going to have your top 3, top 4 guys for all 17 games. You hope to have them for opening night, of course, against a very talented Denver Broncos secondary. But yeah,
to cut you off, like, probably the best secondary you're going to see all year. It doesn't really get better. So if at least for one of those, you can almost guarantee that you have all the guys out there, like, that's awesome.
That
Because
would be great.
You wouldn't want to go into the Denver week with, say Cyrus down and X down, and now you just cannot defeat man coverage.
Right.
And they're just going to play you in man. They're going to rush 5, rush 6. They're not going to care because you got no one to beat them. So that is almost a benefit to play them in week 1, where you can theoretically have most of the room healthy and feeling pretty good.
Because I think Cyrus does translate, at least as of now, to their most potential man beater, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know. But at the same time, you're like, I don't know, man. Like, he's a rookie, and how much will they play him? But also, like, how much will defenses still go off of last year, which is, hey, if it's third down, we can man you up. We'll feel comfortable that the pass rush gets there. Or do teams play a little bit more zone, because Kenneth Walker does attract some eyes in terms of the second level and how you can maybe manipulate them under center or from a play action standpoint, where you don't have to be always in a traditional, shotgun drop back situation. It's all connected. It's all fascinating. They still haven't. I know until they do it, I have to say this. They still have not had a 11-on-11 full pad scrimmage rep where they've had their top 3 receivers on the field.